Some of the most valuable land on Earth was sold for beads, spices, and pocket change. Whole cities, entire islands, even whole nations traded away for things you'd find in your kitchen drawer. Some countries made the deal of a lifetime. Others are still kicking themselves. Centuries later, these are the strangest land deals in history. And by the end, you decide which was the worst. It starts in 1626 on a small, swampy island. A Dutch trader named Peter Minuit steps ashore and makes a deal that becomes legend. He buys the entire island of Manhattan from the local Lenape people for goods worth about 60 Dutch guilders, cloth, metal tools, and a handful of beads. Later storytellers shrank that to a punchline, $24. But here's the twist nobody tells you. The Lenape almost certainly didn't think they were selling anything. In their world, land couldn't be owned, only shared, like the air or the sea. So, while the Dutch popped the champagne, the Lenape believed they'd simply let some strangers camp for a while. Two sides, one piece of paper. Completely different deals. And today, the $24 island is covered in skyscrapers worth over $1 trillion. But the Dutch weren't finished. 40 years later, they made a swap so bizarre it sounds invented. Back then, one spice was worth more than gold, nutmeg. And almost all of it grew on a single speck of land in Indonesia, an island called Run. England wanted it so badly it hurt. So in 1667, the two empires sat down to trade. England gave up its claim to Little Run, and in return kept a muddy, unwanted trading post on the other side of the planet. That worthless mud? It was New Amsterdam. The English renamed it New York. So Britain swapped a tiny nutmeg island for the future financial capital of the world, and at the time both sides were sure the Dutch had won. By the 1800s, the young United States was starving for land. And across the table sat Spain, once the richest empire on Earth, now broke and losing colonies by the year. Spanish Florida had become a nightmare of raids and borders Spain couldn't defend. So in 1819, Spain gave up. It handed all of Florida to the United States. And what did Spain get? Not a single coin. America just agreed to pay off $5 million that Spain already owed to American citizens. Spain surrendered an entire future state for a canceled debt. Now, not every deal was a steal. Some were just strange. In 1853, the United States paid Mexico $10 million for a strip of empty desert. No gold, no cities, just sand and cactus along what's now the bottom of Arizona and New Mexico. Why? One word, railroad. America wanted a southern line to the Pacific, and the flattest path ran through that desert. Mexico, bruised from war and desperate for cash, took the deal. The kicker? That railroad took decades to actually build. Then it got stranger, because countries didn't just buy land. Sometimes they bought entire nations of people. In 1898, after a short, brutal war, Spain lost almost everything. And in the treaty that followed, the United States handed Spain $20 million. For the whole Philippines. Thousands of islands. Millions of people. Sold on paper like furniture. One problem, the Filipinos had been fighting for their own freedom and had no intention of being bought. The moment the ink dried, a new war exploded between America and the very people it thought it had purchased. It wasn't until 1946 that the Philippines finally became free. You can buy the land on a map, but not the people who live on it. And Spain still wasn't done selling. Its empire was collapsing so fast it basically held a garage sale. In 1899, just 1 year later, Spain sold its last Pacific islands, the Carolines, the Marianas, and Palau, to the rising German Empire for around 25 million pesetas. Centuries of empire liquidated for quick cash. The empire the sun once never set on. Quietly closed up shop. By the 20th century, land deals stopped being about greed and started being about fear. During World War I, America looked nervously at 3 small Caribbean islands owned by tiny, neutral Denmark. The nightmare? If Germany seized them, enemy submarines could sit right off America's coast. So in 1917, the U.S. made Denmark an offer it couldn't refuse, $25 million. Paid in solid gold. Denmark took the gold and sailed away. Today we call those islands the U.S. Virgin Islands. But the strangest deal of all is an island that was given away and then sold back. In 1784, France handed the tiny island of Barthélemy to Sweden, just for trading rights in a single port. For nearly 100 years, snowy Sweden owned a palm tree island in the Caribbean. Then, in 1878, Sweden did something no empire had ever done. instead of selling in secret. It asked the islanders to vote, stay Swedish or return to France. The result was almost unbelievable. Hundreds voted to return to France. And exactly one person voted to stay. The only time in history a colony changed hands by popular vote. Beads, nutmeg, gold, a desert, whole nations, and an island decided by a single stubborn vote. History's map wasn't just fought over, it was bought and sold. So tell me, which of these was the worst deal of all time?